Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another live this morning. Hoping you're having a great day. I'll wait as usual for a few to come on and make sure you can hear me and see me. And Renee, how are you? And John, good morning. Mona, Mary Jane, Nativity, Francis, Mark, Anthony, Arlene, John, our friend from Elgin, Illinois, Roma, Lisa, and Rosa, and Sue. Good morning to you, Sue, this morning. Hope you're having a great day. Maria and Nellie, Madeline, Doris, all good friends of the show. Nick, part of our staff, and Connie, good morning to you. And Jerry, hope you're having a great day. Okay, Glenna, Anna, and Diane. You're going to love this show today. I'm going to bring you a little bit of history here, okay? Jeanette, good morning to you. Deb, how are you? And Maria, and Annette, Guylaine. Okay, Yolande, how are you? Diane. Okay. Pam, how are you? Lots of snow, apparently. Okay. Jeanette, part of our staff. Good to have you on this morning. Diane and Diane. Two Dianes in a row. Brandy, I see your name up there. Good morning, Josh, George, and Elaine and Sylvie. Okay, let me get going. Guys, first of all, did you get our email this morning? Okay, so we put out an email, and if you're not getting our emails, you need to get our emails, because there's a lot of good teaching that we do separate from this program on the emails. And plus that, big announcement today. Okay, big announcement about the book. But you got to sign up, because we only have a certain amount of copies. They released a certain amount of copies to start, and we're keeping it to our group at first before we put it out on the website and that. So please, if you're not getting our emails or sign up, I'll ask Brandy, Jeanette, Nicole afterwards. Make sure you can sign up with us, okay? So that you can get an early copy, signed copy of the book, the Metabolic Reset. You're going to love it. The diet your doctor won't share with you, okay? And I'm going to give you, this study came out, and again, I'm telling you, I bet you'd have trouble even Googling it and finding it, okay? And the reason I say that is because I've looked everywhere else other than my little feed that I get to me looking at studies. And, I get a lot of studies every day, probably, 20, 30 different studies a day that come to my attention. But a lot of them, I look at them and I don't even read the whole study. I just look at a synopsis. If it's interesting to me, I will, start looking right into the details of it. But listen to this study, and I'm going to bring you a little bit of teaching this morning to emphasize the fact of a high protein, high fat diet, okay? Now, listen to this. Study came out, brand new study on people that consume high amounts of protein, high amounts of fat, particularly animal fat, so listen to what I'm saying, have much lower recurrences of urinary tract infections. So that's interesting, isn't it? It doesn't surprise me, but I had never seen any study in the past that even talked about urinary tract infections and food. I'm trying to think of any that I know of. Now, I've always talked to you about not eating sugar, because when you get recurring urinary tract infections, what is sitting inside the bladder, ladies, is yeast. It's fungal. It's not bacterial. There is bacteria there, but it sits on top of the yeast, the candida. And that's why I've always consistently said, stop eating sugar, because you're feeding the bears. Sugar feeds candida. It feeds yeast. But this study is saying, and I like where they're coming from, this study is saying that the more you eat meat, eggs, meat, and cheese, fat and protein, and very little carb, the study is showing that you're going to have much less urinary tract infection. Now, they're saying it for another reason. They're not saying about a yeast or candida. The study is saying is because your urine is so acidic, your urea in the urine is so acidic, it kills all the bugs. Okay? So, and let me just say this. People get confused about pH, okay? People get confused about pH because they say, Doc, don't I want to be alkaline? Yes. Saliva. If you test your saliva pH, you want your saliva pH to be slightly alkaline. Not way up there in alkalinity, just slightly alkaline. Okay? But your pH of your urine, especially morning urine, you want that to be highly acidic, around 5. Why is that? Well, you're getting rid of garbage. You know, I would tell people, look, don't take your urine pH and, oh, it's acidic. Yeah, it's supposed to be acidic. Out, garbage out, urea out. You see, your body converts uric acid. Everybody, by the way, makes uric acid. Okay? It's a byproduct, listen to what I'm going to say, primarily of fructose. Everybody makes uric acid. It's part of your metabolism to make uric acid. But your uric acid is converted to urea. Then you pee it out. A lot of people don't pee out their uric acid. They're supposed to. And that urea, once it is going through the bladder, helps to kill your bacteria that don't belong there. Not the good guys, but the bad guys like E. coli. And even yeast. So that's the study, but let me even give you a little bit more where I come from. Okay, the people ask me that all the time. Where do you come from? Like, you know, it goes against most of what we've learned over the years. Yesterday I mentioned a person, a Canadian, born in Manitoba, who, he's written several books, but let me just quote one of them. When I did my PhD in nutrition, one of the things we had to do is look at the history of food. And it was fascinating, you know, going back into biblical times on food. And, you know, looking at the history of food. And of course, we've gone way off track, especially in North America here. But, I've been bringing to you that, the Chinese even the Chinese don't import anything. They export, but they've imported our diet. Not completely, but guess what? They're getting sick just like we are. The last thing that you want to import from North Americans is our diet. Okay? But let me read this to you, okay? He wrote a book, Man Shall Not Live by Bread Alone, okay? And his name was, I don't know if I'm probably going to murder his first name. Viljamur, Moore, M-U-R. I don't know how they pronounce it, okay? Stephenson, okay? Viljamur Stephenson. Like I said, the first name, I probably murdered it. He was an Arctic explorer. I'm just going to read what on this little. They're trying to promote his book. It was written years ago. Arctic explorer Viljamur Stephenson spent years living with the indigenous Inuit and Eskimo people. Now, some people don't like the term Eskimo. Okay, this is written right on Google. Well, it's not even. Yeah, it's on Google. Not by bread alone. Okay, that's the title of the book, and this is the little caption underneath it. Trying to, I bet you, I wonder if you can even get this book. Okay, so he spent years living with the indigenous Inuit and Eskimo people. He noted their general healthiness. The Eskimos, Inuit, they were very healthy. I've written a lot of books. This book coming out is number 21. And I've often used Eskimos don't get heart disease. But here's what he said, okay? Way before me. He said, okay, he noted their general healthiness and good teeth, in brackets. They had good teeth. We talked about that yesterday. What destroys your teeth? Mineral. What destroys your minerals in your teeth? To give you osteoporosis in your bones. And it's not a lack of calcium. It's a bad stinking diet with sugar. Now the Inuit had very good teeth. And listen to what he writes. And the absence of many of the diseases that plague the Western cultures, such as scurvy, which is a lack of vitamin C. Now I got to talk to you about that. Heart disease and diabetes. That's the caption to sell the book. Heart disease and diabetes. And the Inuit of today, by the way, are not near as healthy as they used to be. You know why? Because they're eating our food. I love the Native people. I love the First Nations. I'm so often invited to speak to the First Nations. Been to many, many reservations, and that they kind of like me because I I get them laughing and at themselves a little bit, because I said, listen, white man, we took your land and we took your health. Because what is it? About 80% of the First Nations, and getting up there in the Inuit people, they're becoming diabetics. They have a terrible scourge, diabetes. I said, you got to go back to living off the land. Now you're consuming our sugar, 200 pounds a year, and it's killing you. I said, the white man will wipe you out. You're going to die from within with this diabetes that's a scourge to you. So here's this Stephenson, wrote these books in the 1940s and 50s. And what was he saying? It was all observation. He couldn't get over how healthy these people were. And what did they live on? The Inuit. Fat. Organ meat. Fat don't make you fat. Fat don't give you cholesterol. Bad triglycerides. Fat doesn't do that. And so this morning we're talking about another study that shows the benefits, even to your bladder, ladies, of eating a high-fat and protein diet. You're even going to have healthier teeth and healthier bones. You know, they didn't even have scurvy. Vitamin C. Scurvy. Remember? I told you the story so often of Jacques Cartier. And Jacques Cartier, you know, it's part of our Canadian history. When he came down the St. Lawrence, I don't know what he did with all the dead guys. They probably were buried at sea. Threw them overboard. But 25 men on that ship didn't make it. They died of scurvy. Now, the Indians, the First Nations, they befriended him and his crew. And they were smart. Just like today, they still, you know, my grandfather, David Martin, the founder of the Martin Clinic, and his brother, my Uncle Paul, all their medicines were herbs and barks and mushrooms and, you know, I wish I would have recorded. My dad let me in on a lot of secrets, but I didn't get all of them. I wish I'd love to resurrect my grandfather in that. But you know what? Jacques Cartier, did he get a tablet of vitamin C? No. He got a pine bark extract tea. The First Nations, they made him a tea. And his men, here, drink this. Pine bark. Why do you think I'm so big on pine bark? Because of that story. And it was research, you wouldn't believe it. In the 1950s, there was a fellow by the name of Jacques Mascalier from France who had a PhD in biochemistry. He read the story of Jacques Cartier while he was studying at the University of, what was the university? It was in Quebec City. And he went back to France and said, what? He's scratching his head. What in the world? How could you cure scurvy with pine bark? And then he started researching. And he realized, well, it obviously has to have some vitamin C in the tea. But he found it was much more than that. It was OPCs, which is about 50 times stronger than vitamin C. Guess where else that's found? I'm waiting. Where's the true vitamin C that I talk to you? You guys think I'm kidding, right? When I say vitamin C is coffee, I'm not kidding. It's not as strong as pine bark. But coffee has all these polyphenols, OPCs. And they're molecules that cure your scurvy. You ain't going to get scurvy if you drink coffee. Did you know that? That's why I tell people that. But isn't that interesting? He said he was amongst the people. And he couldn't get over it. There was no heart disease. There was no diabetes. There probably was no cancer. Now the Inuit die. I always tell my, I used to, in my patients in the office, I said, and even with a couple of the books I wrote, I said, well, Inuit still died. It's not like they lived forever. But they died because the polar bears ate them. They didn't die of, well, I guess you could call that natural causes. And if they would stick to that diet, they would never get COVID either or be sick from it. Because they had such good immune systems. Folks, it's our diet. It's our diet. And I am trying to convince you day after day after day after day to cut out your stinking carbs. You don't need them. Now, I'm not saying forever, you can have some carbs. Don't get too uptight. I'm speaking in generalities. You don't need carbs. Eskimos, Inuit, they don't have carbs. Their diet, they didn't have carbohydrates. Maybe they could grow in the, any time they had any summer. Might have had a few potatoes. I don't know. But they lived on blubber. They lived on fish. They lived on seal. And what Stephenson was saying, even the muscle, they didn't eat that. They gave that to their dogs. They only liked the fat. I don't know if you need more proof than that. And then studies are coming now and they go, oh, bladder infections, diminished. You're a carnivore. I must repeat, you're a carnivore. I saw an article this morning on from a cardiologist. And, God love her, okay? But she was proud of the fact, she says, I'm a vegan. I love statins. And I can't remember what else she said. I wanted to send her a little note. Hello. You're never going to be out of business with heart disease. You're a cardiologist, you're never going to be out of business. We have more heart disease today than ever before. And they talk about this virus. Well, you know what, guys? And this is just facts. 99% of the people that died, 99% of the people that died from the virus had pre-existing conditions. It just didn't jump on healthy people. It didn't. Healthy people might have got the virus, and most people, when they got tested, they didn't even know they weren't sick, but they got tested and, oh, I had the virus. because your body's immune system is fearfully and wonderfully made. You're made to fight these things. But if you got a pre-existing condition, especially heart and diabetes, you could be in big doo-doo. It affects every area of our life. Teeth, bladder. And can I talk about another bladder? The gallbladder. That's how you know you're a carnivore. Why? You have a gallbladder. A gallbladder was put in your body by God because you were supposed to eat animal fat. 100%. That's why you need a gallbladder. Cows don't have a gallbladder. They eat grass all day. Let them eat the grass. When they eat grass, you get omega-3 when you eat their meat. Did you know that? When they eat grass, you get the omega-3. When you eat their meat or fish. Yeah. See, isn't that, that's how your body works. You have a gallbladder for a reason. So isn't that interesting about Stephenson? He was a smart guy. All he did was observe. Some of the best science is observation. You know, I sometimes, you know, like some people come back at me, you know, I'm not a university professor. I said, no, but I was in practice for a long time. I have a lot of observational, clinical observations. You can't dismiss those. I was trying to figure out the other day how many patients I saw over 46 years. Hundreds of thousands? I can't think it would be any less than that. Traveled around the world to give seminars and, you know, from China to Korea to Europe, giving seminars on nutrition. Hundreds of thousands of people. You get a lot of observation. You know, to me, it's common sense. So you have to understand the world is, you know, like it doesn't always tell you the truth. It really doesn't. You know, and you got to understand. You know, I'm not a conspiracy guy, honest. But you got to understand there's hidden motives. And they take over Google even. And they take over Netflix. And they take over like the social media. I love social media. I'm able to communicate to you in large numbers on social media. So I'm not against it. I'm just telling you that sometimes they have a vested interest. The pharmaceutical companies. Don't misquote me. Don't misquote me. Am I against the pharmaceutical companies? Absolutely not. I'm not. You get hit by a truck, you better get on antibiotics to save your life. And you don't want to get sepsis. You don't want to get infection. You know, I'm serious. You know, sometimes you need a steroid. You know, if you're in the hospital with COVID, and you might need a respirator. You might need steroids. to save your life. I'm not against that stuff. I'm not. But I'm telling you that a lot of times, you look at statin drugs. I've been railing against statin drugs since 1980s. I don't like them because to me, it's not science. If statin drugs were successful, we'd have got rid of heart disease by now. They were thinking of putting them in it came up in the British Parliament to put them in the water, in drinking water. Medication. To get people's cholesterol down. Oh, it's the wrong thinking because cholesterol doesn't come from eating cholesterol. And cholesterol is only found, by the way, you know this, in the animal kingdom. Cholesterol is not found in plants. But if you think in your head that cholesterol is the be-all and end-all, it is the cause of heart disease, you go down that path, you're going to land up in food. You're going to say, well, don't eat it because cholesterol is bad for you. So limit your eggs, limit your meat, limit your cheese, because all of those things have cholesterol in it. And then, let's get drugs. Let's make up a whole class of drugs that are going to lower your cholesterol. And that's what happened. So the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry were in cahoots. And I'm not even questioning their motives. I'm sure there's a lot of good people. Like this cardiologist this morning I was telling you about, who is a vegan. She's proud of it. Who believes in cholesterol as the cause of heart disease. She says it. I can't question her motives. She's probably a very good doctor. Got to be smart to be a cardiologist, right? But their premise is wrong. It's based on faulty science. And I'll argue that till the cows come home. Pardon the pun. You're meant to eat cows. You're meant to eat cheese. You're meant to drink milk if it was real milk and not white Pepsi. That's why I like cream. Because that's milk of today. You need fat. Because fat don't make you fat, and fat don't give you cholesterol. It's sugar that does. It's those crappy carbohydrates. And more people are starting to understand that. We've been on a failed experiment for 50 stinking years. It's been a failed experiment. It's time to wake up. I had my little rant this morning. Okay, now, once again, if you have not signed up for the first tranche of books that are coming out, I'm advertising. You're going to love this book. Okay? The Metabolic Reset, the Martin Clinic Reset, the diet your doctor won't share with you. And I'm not meaning to go after doctors. I'm just telling you they won't share it with you. Not this diet. Because they're scared of it. And every day I try and convince people, don't be scared of fat. You got to listen to this Stephenson, or whatever he called himself. Okay. Okay? And Lisa Maria is saying, I already signed up. And Tammy says, I'm addicted to cookies. Hey, you're a cookie monster. You and millions of others. Okay. So, guys, love you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow, Lord willing. If you haven't signed up, sign up to get that book, okay? And Denise said she just signed up, so good for you, okay? We're expecting to sell out what they gave it. The publisher actually, well, did us a favor, they said, and released so many copies of the book. I guess this COVID has really affected the publishing industry. I didn't know that. But I found out this fall because we thought this book would be out a lot earlier. But anyway, doesn't matter. Here we are. We're there now. Okay? So, love you guys. Talk to you soon. God bless.